Welcome to another tutorial video. Today we're going to talk about making icons. What are icons, you ask? Well, there's different types depending on what your object is. And so it will depend a little bit on what you are doing. Common types of icons are the preview icons, which are what you see when you're in like decorating mode. There's also inventory icons, which are what you'll see when you are looking at weapons or armor on the workbenches. There's workshop icons, which is typically what you'll get in the outpost builder. So placing halves, what the halves look like in the menu on the side of that screen. The ship builder icons, when you're in the ship builder UI, again, it's the icons on the side that show you sort of like a little image of what you're looking at. There's also a set of what are called like 3D previews, which are related to these icons. And these are the inventory 3D, the workbench 3D, and the data menu 3D. And these all sort of use the same process that making icons use, but you typically don't need to engage with the 3D icons because they should already be working. If they're not working, you've seen what they look like now, so you'll know maybe some hints for how to troubleshoot this problem. So preview icons are these ones that you see when you're in decorate mode. They're the ones on the right there. These are the workshop icons. You see these when you are in outpost mode. Again, they're the ones off to the right in the lists that you see me cycling through. Inventory icons are what you see here on a workbench. Ship builder icons, as you might imagine, are located in the ship builder. And you see these when you go to add parts. And these are the icons next to the object that you're trying to add. Inventory 3D is these that appear in your inventory that you can rotate like this. Data menu 3D is this image of your dude. And workbench 3D is this little preview window that you can see in some of the workbench things. Basically, it's anything where you can rotate an object in all 3 dimensions. The important ones for this tutorial are the inventory icons, the workshop icons, and the shipbuilder icons. And I'm going to focus on those specifically because part of the process for making each of those 3 icons work already involves setting the preview icon. So we don't need to focus on preview specifically. That said, how do you actually make icons? Well, while you're in your creation kit, before you finish your mod, and you can see here I've got a quick mod that I was working on for my partner. So the thing is, you have to assign a thing called a transform in order to make these icons work. You can do this on the form of the object, be it a pack-in or a static, by going to this space where it says preview transform and selecting a preview transform here. And when you have one selected, you can click this ellipsis button to see what that transform form looks like. In this case, because I'm working on halves, I want to find a hab transform. You can see we've got inventory, we've got outpost, which are the ones that are called workshop typically. And then you have ship transforms, which is what I'm using here. So I have a SMod object and I need a matching transform. So I'm going to select the SMod 1 by 1 by 1. It's generally considered good practice to use a preview transform that already exists. This holds true across the inventory, workshop, and shipbuilder icons as well. This is mostly so that you don't create form IDs that are unnecessary in a mod. You don't bloat your mod. Although you will find sometimes that, depending on what you're making, that the pre-existing transforms do not work for your object. A good example of this for me was my Sail the Stars mod, where I had tall ship masts and sails and pieces that were not a typical or pre-existing sized object. And so I had to create unique transforms so that the icons could show up correctly. And we'll get into more later about what happens if the icons don't show up correctly and how you can fix that, because this is fairly common. That said, if you follow what I do in this tutorial, it is very likely that you will not have issues. Anyways, back to my picking here. You can see we've got ones that are separated by type. And so I have a hab. I'm going to select the hab one so that it shows up well. And then I can click the ellipses here to see what that looks like inside the kit. Let's find one. So like, here's an example of what the icon will look like. You can change the options for it. However, do note that any changes that you make on this left side of the transform form will propagate across every object that uses that form. These are not on these settings on the left here are not on a per object basis. They are on a per form basis. So it's very important that if you feel the need to edit this, copy the form, save it as a new thing, use your edited form instead of editing the default form. Anyways, so from here, this is sort of method one. Which feels easier because you're already in it. And the thing is that where it says preview object, this is where you select the object that you want to have the icon for. So here with habs, only the exterior needs an icon. With workshop objects, it would be, of course, your exterior of your outpost object. With inventory objects, it would be the actual item that you're playing with. And with preview, which is like decorator mode, it would be the picture of your furniture or photo or whatever. So I go and I find one of my external pieces. I select preview icon and assign transform. And then I also select shipbuilder icon, which Bethesda has wonderfully misspelled in this creation kit. And I assign transform like that as well. You must assign both a preview transform and one of the 3 transforms that applies to the thing that you are making icons for. You can scroll back if you need to remember which things are for what. If all you are making is like decorator objects, then you do not need inventory, workshop, or shipbuilder icons. You can do just preview icon. So I do that. In theory, you can hit the export icon button here. In practice, as far as I'm aware, at the time of making this video, absolutely nobody has gotten this button to work correctly. Don't bother using it. With both of those transforms assigned, I can hit OK. I can also, while I'm in the form here, do this for every single one of my objects. And I'll show you how that works in a second on the other side of it. Now, I'm not sure if these fuselages have a separate transform icon already set, so I'm going to go check here. They do use the same one. Okay, so I can go through and now I can do it with each of these. All right, and that is all of my halves assigned. I can hit OK. I close the form. You see that my preview transform here is now filled in. I save my mod, and I'm going to go check now all of the other ones to make sure that the preview transform thing here is filled in. Now, you might be asking, what is this grouped workshop object tech box down here? Well, that is so that the game knows whether or not the thing that you are assigning preview transforms for exists as part of a group. So like in the shipbuilder, when you see the list on the right of all of the objects, and then you can scroll on an individual entry to do different versions of that same base object. You know, like a Hope Tech 2x1 hab, and you can scroll through the armory and the captain's quarters and the living quarters and the brig and so on. So this lets the game know that this is part of a group. You'll know if your object is part of a group because you will need to have made a SMS set form in order to make that work. You can see one of my other tutorials for what that does and why you need it. Again, I'm just confirming all of my preview transforms. Now the thing is, you do that, you think, okay, I'm done. I can go make my icons. What I have found is that just assigning it through that form is not always enough, and it does not always actually assign the transform to your object on the back end. What is that back end? The back end is the inspector window. You can open the inspector window by right-clicking on your object and going down to View in Inspector. And in here, if you scroll down, you have a section called Preview Transforms. And this is where you can set, like if you need to override your 3D transforms because it's not working for some reason. And here, this is where you need both your preview transform and your shipbuilder icon transform to be set here. And if they're not set here, it will not generate an icon for you. You can set it by clicking on the value that you want to set. It's just like the other form, and you select the one that you want to set it to. So I will check this for each of them so that I will not have the problem that I frequently have had in the past where my icons do not generate correctly. This is also good so that it makes sure that I didn't miss one while I was going through the list. It's very easy with large numbers of these to miss something. Now, because you can set this through the inspector form when you have a large number of objects that will all be using the same transforms, you can actually do this in bulk by selecting all of the objects you want, hitting View in Inspector. You'll see it says multiple values at the top, and then you can check easily that these all have these transforms set. And so if I select all of mine, I should see that these all have the same thing. Yep. So these are all the same. I have set all of my values. I am good. Now that I have that set, I will save my mod. And this is very, very important. The thing that generates icons will not work if you do not have your mod saved as a .esm file. It does not work with ESPs. It must be an ESM. So I will convert my file. I will save it again. And then we are done with this section. The next part is actually making your icons. This is all just set up so that you can actually use the generation system. So, how do you do this? There's still a bit more setup, which is that there's a thing called AssetWatcher, which is a tool that Bethesda provides to you already that helps you convert files from a format like TIFF, to DDS, which is the format that most things in Starfield are using. AssetWatcher can do this automatically for you so that you don't need a specialized program, because the thing that generates icons generates them as a TIFF file already. AssetWatcher is located in Steam Apps Source. No, sorry. AssetWatcher is located in Steam Apps, Common, Starfield, Tools. Then you have AssetWatcher. AssetWatcher must be open and running in order for this to work. This is what AssetWatcher looks like. You may have encountered this already for other projects if you're coming at this from an experienced modding standpoint. This is probably the only thing that I personally use AssetWatcher for, and that is because I have a program called paint.net. I'll put a link in the description so that you know where to download it, which is a art program like Paint or Photoshop that can natively handle DDS files. This is incredibly useful later when we talk about troubleshooting this icon generation project. So, to set up AssetWatcher, you have to set up a project. I have one that already exists, but if you were to set it up new, you need to give it a name. You tell it what game you're making it for. You tell it what file types you're handling. In this case, textures. You tell it what platform. It doesn't matter for this. You can just select PC. Your source folder needs to be Steam Apps, Source, TGA Textures. Your output folder can be whatever you want. I like to point it at a folder that I create specifically for each mod. It keeps things tidy, and it means that I don't have to go hunting later. So in this case, I just reuse this project. So if you already have a project set up, you can just edit. I'm going to go edit my output folder. Yeah, where is it? Call it like the rest of my mod, select the folder, save, and then you need to turn the project on. You do this by the eye icon over here. And then now it's watching. Projects basically watch for things that drop into the source directory, and then they will output it in the correct DDS format to the output directory that you have set. So we have export, we have AssetWatcher waiting and ready. This next part is in the command line. In your command prompt, I'll show you the way this works. You need to be in your creation kit.exe folder already. So we will change directory for, what was it? I can just copy from there. Use Shift Insert to paste in my command line here. If your directory name has spaces in the name, you have to use quotes, double quotes around it so that your Windows system will, you know, parse it correctly. So now you can see that I am in my Starfield folder. So now this depends on the icon that you want to make. Like you saw at the beginning, there's 3 main types. We focus on these 3 types because these 3 are the ones that you can generate by doing this. So each of them has their own command, but they all start the same. creationkit.exe. And then you set a flag. And your flag is either generate inventory icons, generate workshop icons, or generate ship builder icons. And then you use a colon and the name of your ESM file. Give me a second because I need to go find it because I forgot what I saved it as. No, it says it up there. Canes CFE dot. So this one should be Canes CFE.esm. I'm going to confirm that that actually exists as a file because I do not want to make a problem here. Yeah, there it is. Canes CFE.esm. It is a file. And then I need to make sure that I am not already in the creation kit. So, hold on a second. Well, I get I'll do that. So, I'll close out of the creation kit. This is because the way that the icons are generated is that it basically runs the kit in the background. You won't see it open. You might see the splash screen, that initial title card that pops up, but you won't actually see the kit open unless you're doing a huge project where it actually takes it so long to make the icons that you will see a window pop up. This can take a while, so don't be alarmed. It does not provide any output in the command prompt that tells you whether or not it was successful. This is why I keep the AssetWatcher up. One, it has to be open to catch the files, and also this way I can watch here in Export Jobs tab as each file is generated and as the AssetWatcher converts it to the correct format. So let's go. So there's the splash screen, like I mentioned. And this is where it takes a while. If your creation kit already takes a long time to start up, this will take at least as long as that takes before it runs. So now you can see in AssetWatcher that it got all of my files and it returned me to the command prompt with my flashing cursor to let me know that it was done. That is all of the feedback that you will receive when doing this process, unless you have typed your command wrong somewhere. So with that done, I can now go look at the place where my icons were generated. You'll see that it made folders here. This folder structure is very important and must be preserved when you copy this into the main Starfield folder. It is interface, shipbuilder icons, Canes CFE.esm. That's the name of my folder, of my mod. Do not change this, or else when you upload your mod, like when you pack your mod and upload it to creations, it will not contain the icons correctly. I have 14 icons. Why? Because they're grouped. Should I have more or should I have less? We need to find out. So we will go back into the AssetWatcher worked. If your icon count here matches your objects that you needed icons for amount, then you are done. Well done. Congratulations. If these do not match, or if some of these pictures are like blank, which has happened before, then we now move into the troubleshooting/issues step. So, first things first, how many of these am I supposed to have? Let's find out. All right, let's see how many I'm supposed to have. I feel like it should be 16. So the way I can check here is I can go, these are all of my outside pieces that should have icons. Since I have 15 selected. 15. 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, 5 each of 3. Okay, so I'm missing one icon, in theory. So what you'll see here is that the name of each of these files will match with the name, with the form ID. Ignore the first set of numbers. It's the last 4 or so that you'll want to be concerned with. So we can see B03, and so we can find B03. B03 is that one. Okay, so check that. We have B57. Okay, so the one I am missing is 29A5, which is a regular 1x1. Now, since I already have an icon that should match for that, what I can do here is I can copy this one, paste it, and rename it. So what you'll notice is that I am ignoring the CL at the end of these numbers. That is on purpose. It is required to be there for the purposes of the icon's existence, but it does not need to be there. Like, it's not part of the form ID naturally. You'll see that the numbers here are all zeros instead of a 0, 1. It's part of how, on the back end, the system identifies forms. Now, if the form IDs of your objects changes, the icons will stop working and you will need to do this process all over again. You're going, oh, but Fen, what about that instance you mentioned where an icon is generated but it's blank? Okay, so basically what that means is that when you generated the icons, your transform for that particular object, your object was in the wrong place. Or its positioning was wrong, it was rotated funny, it's too big for the icon window. For whatever reason, the system was like, I can't see your object in that window, so I'm going to make a blank object. This is where it comes in really handy to have a program like the one I'm using called paint.net. And what I can do for that problem is I can open up the DDS file in paint.net. And like I did where I copied this one to make an icon of the correct type and with the form ID that matches, I can take this and I can take, say this one had been blank, or I didn't like the way the icon looked, or because it was a misrepresentation of my object. In my render window, here in the creation kit, which I like to keep with this plain gray background, I can use my Windows snipping tool and basically make a picture of it. I can copy this, and in paint.net, I can open a new thing, paste it in, And then we can erase the background. And obviously, you know, if you have a different program, this may be easier than how I'm doing it. But so, like, imagine if this was empty. So what I could do is I can take my object, where is select, invert, there it is. And I can stick it in my icon file and then just resize it until it fits more or less in the correct size. So an icon image is 128 pixels square. So if you're doing this method to fix it or to generate icons because you don't like the ones that were generated for you, you can do it like this. Once you have the icon the way you want it, in paint.net, you can go save as. We'll just call this one example so that I don't overwrite one of the existings. And as a DDS file, it must be saved as a DDS file. Where's my notes for this? You save it as a BC3 linear DTX 5. With DDS files, it is very important that this setting be the correct setting, or else the game will not read your image correctly. I then hit OK. And if we go and look at my file folder, we can see that my example icon is now present. I've done this for a good number of my mods where I did not want to deal with creating custom transforms because it was like a single object, or where each object was a different size. And so the transforms, I was going to have to make a form for every single one of them. It's possible that my method will cause problems later down the line. I only recommend this if you have issues. Otherwise, use the ones that the creation kit generates for you. Now let's go see how those look in game. Let's look at the icons that we just finished making. Now, it's important that you create archives when you finish your mod. Even if the only thing you've done is add textures, you do need to have a texture archive pack in order to see these icons in the game. In this case, at the bottom here, because that's where I put these, we have the icons for each of the new habs that I've added. Once you've done that, you're done, and now your mods look tidy and professional.